afternoon, and welcome to Coffee and Conversations on this rainy Monday afternoon in East Texas. My name is Jason Goodson, and I'm here with Johnny Taylor.
Hello.
And joining us today is Stu Shoemake from Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Stewie.
Hey, and yes, it's rainy here too.
Is it raining there too?
It's raining all across the South today.
Oh, so grab a cup of Joe and sip some coffee and listen to us and write down your thoughts. Send us an email. Go to ToledoRidge.com/podcast and download the podcast today, or just go to the website, ToledoRidge.com.
Well, of course, if they listen to this, they've already downloaded the podcast today.
It's true. But we want to encourage them to keep coming back.
So come back next week. And so if you know of anything you want us to talk about or discuss, send that in too.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
And your thoughts on it.
All right, we got a great Facebook moment today, guys.
Uh-oh.
A great Facebook moment, but this is a Facebook moment that's not for me to read and sort, but it's a visual Facebook moment. And you're gonna have to go to YouTube to be able to see this.
Uh-oh. Let's see. What do they need to search for to find that?
Today's Facebook moment is Stu Wee Dancing. And you've got to go check this out. You can go to youtube.com. You can search.
You can just type in Stu Shoemake and it'll pop up.
Stu Shoemake and it'll pop up. Wee Dancing. And type in Stu Shoemake and it'll pop up. And you will enjoy about 5 minutes worth of some wee dancing there. My wife and I enjoyed it all together last night. We had a howling good time. Old Stewie. You'll enjoy Stu because he's got a great personality, and you'll get to see his moves too.
Oh, my wife.
So Stu, how things going in Hattiesburg?
Well, right now embarrassing.
I saw that the wee dancing was going well.
Yes. Oh man, that was supposed to be in the privacy of family. That's what happens when you leave your back to your wife with her cell phone that has a nice camera on it.
But just think, you brought such great joy into her life.
You did, man. And I want to tell you something. Into our life last night, you're going to be like a YouTube phenomenon now.
See, laughter is like a good medicine. It heals the soul. So,
man, go ahead.
So you were ministering more dancing on that wee thing than a lot of preachers do when they're up in the pulpit.
Oh.
Am I going to get excommunicated for that?
Man.
He don't go to a church to get excommunicated from.
Oh yeah. I forgot.
Stewie might. Boy, if his pastor ever sees that,
I might lose my title as Baptist.
Yeah.
Yep. No dancing in Baptist, you know.
Well, you would have enjoyed our Valentine's banquet this year because everybody got up and danced at one point during that whole thing. Yeah, it was fun. So that's our Facebook moment today. It's a visual Facebook moment, and we encourage you to go and check it out.
Check it out.
So, JT, Stu, I just got a question for you.
Okay.
Are you guys scared yet?
Scared?
Scared? Are you?
Of what?
I probably am somewhere, but I probably shouldn't be.
Okay. I just got to. I just got to tell the story. I'll tell the story because it really sets up what we're going to talk about today. Stu, JT, last night was. If you don't know, Hollywood has come to Mineola, Texas.
Big time.
Big time Hollywood has come to Mineola, Texas. We have the Extreme Home Makeover people in Mineola, Texas, and they are
building a house a mile and a half from where we sit now.
Yeah, they are building a house for a family, well-deserved family, by the way. The Carr family, who is receiving a well-deserved home for their children and themselves. It's a big deal around here. And anyways, we
Dude, can I tell you something real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
They were just in Hattiesburg about a month ago.
Oh, you serious?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Cool.
Awesome.
We are connected in so many ways.
I'm telling you, they are sitting right down the road from us right now.
In the rain.
In the rain, working.
They got the house dried in 2 days.
It's amazing.
From foundation to dried in.
Right.
Wow.
And sheetrock home.
It's quite a deal they got going on over there. Well, anyways, so somebody, in our town here has put together a 24-hour, but it's not really 24-hour, but they call it like a 24-hour prayer vigil. And I guess you could go up there at any time during the day and somebody will be around to let you in. But last night, our church was scheduled to be near the site last night to pray. And we show up, and it's supposed to be open to the community. People are supposed to be there and have been invited to come in and pray and go through this little prayer stations they have set up. I won't say the name of the place where it's at, or just to save some face here. But anyways, our church, my youth group was sent over there from a scheduled time of 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. to man this area. And they have a couple of tents set up outside this church. And anyways, this whole deal basically came down to us showing up and being here to help serve or to help lead people in what they were supposed to do. And when we got there, the people who were running the place come up to me and go, "Hey man, you got a plan?" Well, and if you know me at all, I don't have a plan for nothing. And so I showed up, said no. So anyways, I just know we're supposed to be here from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Do you have a plan? Well, let me tell you what other churches have been doing. And so we went through this whole process with them. So I prepared my kids by gathering them up. So what they wanted them to do was to go into this prayer station inside this fellowship hall, where they have all these different prayer stations set up, and it's a low dim, lit room, and it's got all kinds of candles and a real atmospheric setup going. And it was supposedly called the Tent of Meeting, is what this thing was called. And so anyways, I began to explain to the kids, because most of the kids that they're in my youth group have never gone through anything like that before, so they don't know what to expect. So I began telling them that, talking to them about just enjoying God through this whole process. Just go in and have a conversation with God and enjoy them. So one of the ladies there interrupted me in the middle of sharing with the kids, just to prepare their hearts for the atmosphere. Goes, yeah, and there's something that you need to do first. And here's what you need to do. There, over to the left, is a station set up where you're going to sit down and get right with God before you can move over to the other stations and pray.
Oh my.
Oh my is the exact word. You got to go get right with God first, then you can go pray.
What would Kramer say to that?
Anyways, my heart just melted in its spot. Now, if I was more of a man, I would have just bursted out and said something right then, and could have caused a lot of confrontation. But I'm just not that kind of guy. I don't do I'm not the. So, anyways, this whole thing now, from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. there's 4 hours of prayer time, of singing, of all this stuff. Well, the kids go in one at a time, and for 10 minutes, they're inside this place, and they're outside back in the yard where they feel more comfortable now after being in there for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because, number one, they know from me that I don't preach, hey, you have to get right with God to go into his presence, number one, because you are right with God because of the blood.
Based on the cross.
Based on the cross, you are right with God. So they know this about what I teach out at the church. So anyways, I can imagine that there was a fearful expectation of these kids going into this tent of meeting with the idea that, oh no, I've got to get myself right with God before I can move on in prayer. Well, I guarantee you, they were more concerned about being right with God than they were praying to God and talking to God and enjoying Him.
Yeah.
So that was my experience last night, and thank God JT showed up and Jonathan showed up in the midst of this thing, because my sanity was about to walk out the door. And anyways, I just don't do well in situations like that. In the first place, I don't believe have you ever done anything like that, Stu?
I've done some prayer walks and some prayer stations before, but I can't say I've done one where you had to get right with God before you could go in.
Well, that's a prerequisite for any kind of meeting, right? You got to get right with God first, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. But if it was up to me to get right with God by doing something like that, then it would kind of be useless, because I'd pray to Him for about 30 minutes, and then within the minute that I'm done, I'd be unright with God all over again.
Messed up again.
Yeah.
So this is why I asked the question: are you scared yet? So now thinking about this and the idea of having this opportunity to experience intimacy with God, the kids just missed out on a big opportunity, and nothing I said afterwards made any sense to that point, because it was the fear was already embedded in. But we have a great God who has a great delight in enjoying us as much as we enjoy Him. In John, the book of John, I want to read a few verses, and I'm going to get JT to read a passage from the book He Loves Me, from Wayne Jacobson. But I want to read this passage to you first from John, the Gospel of John, chapter 1, 12 through 14. It says, "But to all who did receive Him, who believed in His name, He gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor the will of the flesh, nor the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen His glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth."
All
right. So you read this passage now.
Okay. This is from the book He Loves Me by Wayne Jacobson. It's chapter 2, and the name of the chapter is What Jesus' Disciples Didn't Know. And he's talking about them they didn't necessarily realize that He was God sitting among them. But anyway, it says this here. It says, "For centuries men and women had stood at a great distance from God, shamed by their sin and intimidated by His holiness. With only a few notable exceptions, people wanted nothing to do with the immediacy of God's presence. When Mount Sinai shook with thunder and earthquakes, the people begged Moses to go to God for them. God was a terrifying figure, and feeling safe with Him was unthinkable. But God had never thought so. He was unfolding His plan to restore the fellowship with humanity that Adam and Eve had lost in their fall. In Jesus, He was able to sit down in the company of those He loved, and they were comfortable enough to engage Him in a real conversation. What an incredible moment that must have been for Jesus, to be with people who were not so awed by Him that they could not enjoy His presence."
And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. It became flesh and dwelt among us. There's another instance there. It's just amazing. Is that the opportunity to enjoy God, and even in a situation like I was in last night, and with the kids and where they were at, they had an opportunity to. I mean, they enjoyed God just as much playing out in the field as they would have inside this room.
Yeah.
And they did. I think they did. But however, what an opportunity for them to have walked into there and conversate and have a conversation with God without fear.
Yeah. You think about Jesus calling Zacchaeus down out of the tree.
Right.
"Today I'm going to your house."
Yeah.
You're a tax collector. You don't know God. You want to see miracles here, but I'm going to your house today. God is going to your house today.
Amazing, man. This is just
And just God pouring. And Jesus told his disciples later on, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father.
right.
This is This is an exact representation of how God is toward people.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
And here he is. He's calling Zacchaeus down out of the tree. I'm going to have a meal with you, which was a huge thing then. To have a meal in somebody's house was huge, as far as being intimate with people.
Haven't we always been? Hasn't there always been a tinge of fear within us?
Oh yeah.
Hasn't there always been a tinge of fear? I mean, seriously,
Yeah,
like
sure.
even I mean, we discussed it. You just discussed it in the comment that you just read out of the book. You know, even when God's presence, you know, showed itself on Mount Sinai, and you know, and shows up and thunders and lightnings, thick clouds, and trumpets blasting. I mean, the presence of God was dwelling upon that. I mean, it came down upon that mountain.
I mean, and his desire was to show himself to the people just like he showed himself to Moses.
Exactly.
And I think in that one spot there, it talks about what they saw.
Exactly. They saw the thunder. They saw the lightning. They saw all that stuff.
Well, I think they even saw him. And I forget what height. We'll have to go back and look at it, but it talks about it, and that's what scared them.
It says, then Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they took their stand at the foot of the mountain.
Yep.
They weren't going any further. It
Well,
wasn't.
he told them not to go any further than that, but the purpose was to
Well,
meet him there.
They had the opportunity to have this encounter with God. Man, and I don't know. They've cowered back in fear at this point. You know, they screwed up the opportunity to be able to encounter this awesome moment with God. And it says, the Lord came down on Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain, and the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain. Moses went up. And the Lord said to Moses, go down and warn the people lest they break through to the Lord, and to look, and many of them perish. Also let the priests who come near the Lord consecrate themselves, lest the Lord break out against them. And Moses said to the Lord, the people cannot come up on Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, set limits around the mountain and consecrate it. And then it says, go down and bring up Aaron with you, but do not let the priest and the people break through to come up to the Lord, lest he break out against them. So Moses went down to the people and told them. Just think about this. Here they have this opportunity, but you know, the peoples end up responding. No, we don't want to hear from God. We want to hear, you go up to the mountain, Moses. You go up there, and then you come back and tell us what God said. And you know what that looks like? It looks like Sunday morning. It looks like Wednesday night. And it looks like they come there to hear from God, walking through the doors. But yet when they leave, it's like, okay, we're going to wait till Sunday before we hear from God again. And what we've missed is that there's the opportunity for us to have a relationship with God that's personal, that's real, even outside the walls of the building. We are the church. I mean, but we have missed an opportunity. We've mistaken we have this idea that God is fearful. It's instilled in us from other people that we can't approach God because of the thunder, of the lightning, of the presence of God. It's too much for us to bear. It's too much for us to handle. But yet Moses went up. Aaron went up. Were they not men just like us?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was their DNA different? I mean, did they have? I mean, were they supernatural before going up? I mean, I don't know. Obviously, God wanted that to happen. No, get me. Oh, but you got to get yourself right first, people.
Right.
If you're listening out there today, hey, go get yourself right next time you pray. Go get yourself right before you pull into the church parking lot. You got to get yourself right first.
Yeah, don't put your faith in the cross.
Okay, guys, I got a question
Okay.
What's that?
from the ESV in Exodus 20.
Okay.
Starting in verse 20, it says, Moses said to the people, "Do not fear, for God has come to test you, that the fear of him may be before you, that you may not sin."
All right.
And verse 21 says, "The people stood far off while Moses drew near to the thick darkness where God was."
All right.
In verse 20, I'm not a reason I was going to ask y'all is because y'all know more about the languages than I do. But it says Moses first tells them, "Do not fear, for God has come to test you." And then he says, "That the fear of him may be before you, that you may not sin." Now, I'm assuming the fear means something second in the second time it's used.
The first one's like not. I would assume is not be afraid, as in that kind
Which
of fear.
verse is it?
Verse 20 in chapter 20.
Yeah, the fear, the Yahweh, and then the second fear is it's actually dreadful, exceedingly fear, reverence.
Reverence.
Okay, reverence there, and the first fear is to fear, to revere, to frighten,
Frightened.
to be afraid, dreadful, terrible, reverence. It's basically it's the same form of the word that people have fear, that the people fear not. They come, not to come in dread, for God is come to prove you, and that His fear, His reverence may be before your faces, that ye sin not. It's like an awe. It's respect.
Mm-hmm.
The fear is not the, Isaiah, when he saw the vision, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he of course, seeing that vision, he fell before the Lord. Woe is me. But what happened is he was the coal touched his lips. He was consecrated. He was, it was a symbol that it's okay. You've been made okay here. But he didn't do nothing to make himself right. He just realized that, whoa, woe is me.
Yeah.
I can't do nothing to make myself better here.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then God showed
Exactly.
His whole plan as He came and touched his lips. Had an angel touch his lips with a coal of fire from the altar.
I mean, look, Moses would not have approached, nor Aaron, nor anybody else, for that matter, that they called, or Joshua, who went up with them, if there was any kind of doubt that they were not right. And so they had to believe, wait a minute, God, I must be okay with God before I can approach this mountain.
Well,
There's a belief there.
yeah.
And knowing that it was okay to go up.
Because God said that
Yeah.
you could. And then even later, when God got mad at Moses, or was angry
Right.
with Moses for striking the rock when He told him to speak to it, Moses went on speaking face to face with Him in that whole exchange. He didn't run away. He wasn't worried that God was going to strike him down.
Mm.
Oh, man.
And what's funny is, even though Moses didn't do what God said, there's still water came out of the rock and
Right.
provided
Yeah.
for the people.
So,
I think that's really important. This is going to seem silly illustration, but
not even sillier
working
than
at-
mine.
Of course, I work in a church, and there's days where I have to go in the sanctuary by myself, and sometimes that can just seem creepy, and I have found myself speed walking through there to do what I got to do and get out of there because I'm afraid of the presence of God, which is really a silly thing because I mean He dwells within me. It's not like being in the sanctuary is going to be anything special.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Now you've done it, Stewie.
Yeah, I know. But that's the way we think, and
Yep.
Well, it's
And-
exactly what that lady was thinking last night, Stu. The same thing.
Right.
And it was a fellowship hall with tables set up, with candles burning on the table, with things to pray about.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same thing.
And it just goes to show that when I think about it, when I think back on those times, the times when I feel like that
Right.
are the times when I've messed up earlier that morning, recently done something stupid, sinned, and I'm beating myself up over it because I don't believe I'm forgiven.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, I mean,
Me too.
Don't
Just
believe
look-
who I am in Christ.
just think of all the times Jesus is sitting with Peter before he's about to go to the cross, and his concern is for Peter.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he asked Peter, "Do you love me?" And Peter's all frustrated by the time he's asking him the third time, and Jesus sits there and tells him, "You're going to deny me 3 times, but after that, after you've been tested, you're coming back."
Mm.
You know,
And
Yeah.
and he's sitting there carrying on face-to-face fellowship with Peter in concern for Peter in the midst of his worst suffering coming up. He's still sitting there fellowshipping with Peter, knowing and telling Peter, "This is what you're going to do. You're going to deny me."
in the same in the same Peter that walked on the water,
Yep.
same Peter that went through and actually denied him, actually did what God said was going to happen, wrote these words. At the end here, this is from 1 Peter. He says, "He was foreknown before the foundation of the world, but was made manifest in the last times for the sake of you, who through him are believers in God, who raised him from the dead and gave him glory, so that your faith and hope are in God.
Yep.
Having purified your souls by your obedience to the truth for a sincere brotherly love, love one another earnestly from a pure heart, since you have been born again, not of perishable seed, but of imperishable, through the living and abiding word of God." The God, the Spirit, the life, the God that lives inside of us is not from perishable seed
Or corruptible.
or corruptible seed. It's from an incorruptible, imperishable. No longer, what it's saying here is that you're not dead, you're alive.
And if we're born of incorruptible seed, if it's incorruptible, does that mean something we do can corrupt it?
No, there's nothing.
No.
Exactly. So why go get ready? Oh, man.
I can see going
Oh,
and
please,
acknowledging that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, okay.
I can go and see acknowledging God's righteousness for me in the cross.
Sure.
There's nothing
But-
wrong with doing that.
But
It helps. It might,
Yes.
it might even help us out to go, God, you know what? I'm coming to you now and going, instead of going, oh, I've got to get right. Here's all my sins. Here's the list. Here's the junk. And just going, God, you know what? By your blood, I'm right. I'm
it's-
alive.
this
And here it is. I'm meeting with you.
flesh is a mess, but your cross is bigger than this mess.
Right.
It has taken care of this mess.
That right there fires me up to worship.
Exactly. It
Not
fires
being
you up.
Scared out of my shoes.
It gives
Exactly.
you boldness to go into the Holy of Holies
That's right.
Yes.
because it's not dependent upon you being a mess or not being a mess.
Right.
By
And
the
it-
blood
it-
of Jesus.
It makes it about a victorious God and not a weenie God who's dependent upon us.
Yeah.
Right.
We way too into our own power.
We are way too into it. And look, here's something else. And you're about to have yourself a kid, Stu. And here do you want this for your child? Do you want for your child to grow up being scared of God?
No.
In other words, do you want your child to be fearful of God?
No.
Exactly.
I want him or her to, sorry.
No worries.
To feel like they can go and enjoy God no matter what state they're in.
Exactly.
It's the same way you want them to be able to come and run and jump into your arms no matter what's going on with them.
Oh man, it's a beautiful picture, man. It really is. And now, if my girls were ever scared to come to me and jump up into my lap, I would be devastated. That would devastate me. Totally.
And he's not a perfect father, just
And
like the scripture says, but God is.
God is a perfect
Mhm.
father. And look, we get to model that for our kids. We get to model whether or not our kids are going to approach God in fear or if they're going to approach God with boldness.
Mm.
We get to model that.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. It's an awesome responsibility.
And if
It's
you're
cool.
sitting out there listening and you don't think you model that, don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, don't
Go to God.
go to God and go, you know what, God? I'm right with you because of the blood. And let that be the start of your conversation. Let that be the part that gets you fired up. To walk out of the whatever, it don't matter if it's from a 4-hour period
Yeah.
sitting and praying or if it's a 5-minute period of sitting and praying, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
And
You can
because
do this.
because of that blood, I can run and jump in your lap no matter how much mess I've got.
Right.
Whether I'm repentant of it, whatever my attitude toward it at the moment, I can still run and jump in your lap. You know what? And probably if I run and jump in your lap, my attitude toward it is more than likely going to change.
Going to change.
As long as I stay out here, I might get some actions in control, but my attitude toward it's not going to change.
Right.
Mm.
Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Tasting.
Get me fired up. What'd you think, Stewie?
Amen. Mm.
Oh my goodness.
Does anybody understand?
Hmm.
The cross is so we can have relationship.
Right.
It's
Right.
so we can sit like John laid his head back on the breast of Jesus. It's so we can have that intimate of a relationship with God.
Hmm.
Because Jesus was God.
Amen.
He wasn't just a man walking around. The Word became flesh and dwelt among you. And the Word was God, and the Word was with God. Understand, Jesus was 100% God, showing what God's attitude toward us was, his desire for relationship, and then paid the whole price, so that we could have that which he also desires.
What a slap in the face of the work that Christ did for us to think that we have to work to earn something he's already given us.
Right.
It's just like when the people of Israel went and he said, bring them to the foot of the mountain and I'm going to speak
Right.
just like you hear me.
Right.
And what did that do to the heart of God when they said, I don't want to talk to you? I don't want to talk to you.
Well, he gave them what they wanted.
And Joshua, he's staying in the presence of God. When Moses comes back to the people, he don't even want to come back. And later on it said about Joshua and Caleb, they are of a different spirit.
They are of a different spirit. You're right about that.
Exactly.
He told Moses, hey, take my phone calls. I ain't leaving.
I'll be back later. I ain't going to deal with all those people that don't like God.
Oh, Jesus, forgive me.
And you just think when him and Caleb and the other spies came back, they saw all of them saw the exact same thing, and the 10 were going, oh, there's giants. They'll kill us. God ain't going to be able to do anything about it. They didn't say that. Not in that
That's
many
basically
words,
what they-
but that's what they insinuate. God,
He don't have the
God,
power to do this.
either God is not big enough or he doesn't care about us enough to take care of that. But Joshua and Caleb said, yeah, there's giants in the land. They said exactly the same thing about what was there. And this is what they said about those giants. They are our food. They are the thing that will make us grow. They are the thing that will make us know God.
Mm.
And then that's when it said that God said that Joshua and Caleb are of a different spirit.
Wow.
Boy.
And they're the only ones, because they believed who God was and that God loved them, they got to see the promised land. They entered into the rest.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you for joining us today, Stu.
Oh, man, it was awesome.
Yeah. Ah, and
Yeah.
Thank you for waiting on me.
yeah, no
You'll have to
problem.
call Andy and tell him you missed out.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening today as well. And remember, please go to our website, teleoridge.com, T-E-L-E-O Ridge.com. Check out the website and go to Walmart and buy He Loves Me by Wayne Jacobson. I think you'll really enjoy that book.
Yes.
I think it'll be a good $10 for you.
Oh yeah. Well worth the read.
Well worth
Easy
the
to read.
Exactly right.
So.
Well, Stu, we'll see you later.
All right. Thanks, guys.